Hi, everybody. How are you? Brent Hazelton, Milwaukee Chamber Theater's artistic director, here with Cassie Bissell and Neil Brookshire, who are performing in our current production of the Thanksgiving play by Larissa FastHorse. How are you, friends?
Good.
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for hanging out a little bit on this unseasonably warm Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So you're Door County residents, and I heard like a week or so ago that there's like a ton of snow up there right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know.
You as well. Great. Yeah, apparently we got a little dusting down here like the Saturday before last or something, and I guess there's a ton up there. But never mind. I thought you were getting a reprieve from it, but if you don't even know it, then
Yeah.
No.
all good.
We're all about being where we are, Brent. Being present.
Be where your feet are. The immortal words of the legendary Rose Pickering. Be where your feet are.
Those are wise words.
They are.
Yeah, no, they really, really are. It's great. How is it being out of Door County and in the big city?
Well, yeah, it's nice. It's nice, and also we miss it. I mean, I have to say that there's a little bit of construction outside of our room, but there's construction outside of our apartment in Door County, so it makes us feel very much at home. It's just there are fewer trees, that's for sure. But it's nice to be in the city. I mean, we spend a lot of time in rural areas, so there's all these trees that are lit up in the park right over there, and there's lights everywhere, and it's nice.
City energy is different.
Yeah.
And, I lived in Chicago for a very long time. I sort of always thought I was a city person and have learned in my older age that I'm not.
Yes.
But it's really nice to spend, and part of what's great about what we do is like we live in this rural place, but we still go to cities to work. And it's great because we get a dose of that city energy, and we do things like go to the Van Gogh exhibit, stuff that you don't get in Egg Harbor, Wisconsin. So,
right.
Yeah.
So
I feel that too as a country kid who has been a city person for a long, long time now. Just that every once in a while that, wherever my wife and I go on vacation, it usually winds up being some sort of isolated, not city sort of place, or spending like a little bit of time in a city, but figuring out how to get out of that as much as possible. I think just to get back to that sort of a little bit of solitude. I mean, when I'm in New York, I'm very conscious of for like the first 72 hours I'm there, it's the most amazing place on earth, right? Like there's people and like all this stuff, and it's so energizing. And then as soon as like 72 hours and 1 minute ticks around, I'm sort of like, okay, I now need to be in a field with nothing else than like a tree and a cow, and like that's it. I get very filled very, very quickly on those sort of mega urban environments.
Yeah, and since you mentioned the snow, it makes me. I mean, we both like to cross country ski. So
nice.
I'm thinking, well, I'm missing out on that a little bit. But I mean, there'll be time for that. Hopefully, the snow will stick around. But we do like that kind of thing too. So yeah, I'm with you. We're the same person, apparently.
Apparently so. Yeah. Equally fetching beards.
Yes. I could recommend my personal beard trimmer. He's very skilled.
Yes, he works quick too and cheaply. So as not only are you a couple of actors, but you're an actor couple. How has it been navigating this pandemic space that way as sort of two people in the same industry, as opposed to those of us who have the other personal half of our lives who are not in that theater world? How's that been for you?
Good question.
I think it's a good question.
We've been doing very well. I mean, we're both kind of homebody, introverted kind of people, so it's easy for us to find our personal activities at home that are kind of even private from each other in terms of like, I'm just going to go read my book, or I'm going to go draw something or whatever. I mean, granted, we have been spending a lot more time together because of this, but I have to say this production of the Thanksgiving play is our 17th production together. In
17.
Yeah,
we've been really lucky.
Yeah,
wow,
we've worked together.
It's kind of remarkable. So we're also used to working together and living together quite a bit, but we all you're like, I'm gonna go skiing. Okay, have fun. Bye. We have our separate time, which is definitely
I would say, funny enough, the first like 6 months of the pandemic was actually kind of a relief for us. I feel like, you know, as theater artists, there's kind of a constant hustle, right? We are constantly aware of what's the next job, how are we going to make our money for the year. That is like a constant stressor. And although we do get to work together a lot, there's always also the tension of like, well, what if we don't have work? What if we have offers together, but also offers separate? And then what does that mean in terms of making decisions about how much time are we willing to spend apart, blah, 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 blah. And so for the first like 6 months of the pandemic, it was like, that was all just taken off the table. Like, it was like, okay, we're collecting unemployment. Nobody's working. So we don't even have that like horrible, you know, insecure itch that all actors have of like, everybody else is working and I'm not. It was like, no, nobody's working. And so I feel like those first 6 months, we were kind of in heaven, like at being the introverts that we are. It was like, we didn't have to make excuses to not socialize. We did evening bike rides up in Door County. We would go on bike rides, which we realized like, we're always in a show at this time. Like, it's always curtain. We're never taking evening bike rides. So we did all these evening bike rides. It was really lovely. And then I'd say after about 5 or 6 months, first of all, the election was coming up. We had a dying cat. There were like a lot of stresses going on. But also we started to really freak out about like, is our industry, is this it? Like, do we really actually need to think about finding something else to do to make a living? And so then for the latter, you know, I feel like from last fall onwards, we have both been, there's been a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, just sort of low level, just constant uncertainty of like, well, what are we going to do? And a lot of conversations about whether we stay in Door County because it's tricky to make supplemental living in Door County in the off season because businesses close in the winter. So there isn't even a way to earn money. You know, most places are closed. Yeah. So there've been a lot of those kinds of conversations. And it's ongoing. I mean, this pandemic, as you know, is not over.
No.
So even though things are coming back, we still don't really know what the landscape is going to look like moving forward. So it's this constant conversation of, well, what would we do instead? And where's the best place to live? And can we stay in Door County? We really like it in Door County, but is that actually realistic as far as income? And blah, 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 blah. So that's the pandemic.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, interesting that you've been able to navigate that space together, right? Sort of, and be able to share that anxiety, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry about your cat. That's a very sad thing.
Well, she was quite old, and so she was a traveling actor cat since 2007. So I mean, she had lived a varied life, lots of different adventures.
Yeah.
So thank you, but also at the same time, she was old, so
she was ready to go.
She was ready to go.
And here's the thing: so we were planning on. We had 5 cats between the two of us when we first got together.
Wow.
We are cat people. So Neil had 3 cats and I had 2 cats when we first got together. It was a Brady Bunch kind of situation. And they were all elderly. So our entire relationship has basically been nursing old cats to their deathbed. And when Alice was the last of them and she went down in October of 2020, we were like, all right, no more pets for a while. We're going to we had ideas about maybe traveling, but then it was a pandemic. So it was January and we were depressed. And so we lasted 3 months before we adopted Bertram.
Welcome, Bertram.
Yes, welcome, Bertram.
Welcome, yeah. We had
learning how to be a traveling theater cat. This is his first foray. This adventure to Milwaukee Chamber Theater is his first lesson in being a traveling theater cat.
Nice. Excellent. I'm glad we are giving him his maiden voyage. We had without any disparaging on any of your cats, we had the best cat in the world for almost 20 years, who left us just about a year before the pandemic started. I do miss that fool every single day. But
yeah.
So about this play that you guys are doing, this Thanksgiving play by Larissa FastHorse, how's it been navigating this funky sort of comedy inside a satire space where we are basically making fun of the failings of well-meaning white liberals for 92 minutes every night.
Yeah, it's quite a tightrope. There's that question that you have, I think, as an actor always when you know that you're doing a comedy and you know that there's humor in the script, you know that it's funny because it's funny to you and you're human, so you know that there are jokes in there. There's always that question of when the audience isn't laughing uproariously, there's always that self-doubt that sits in. That on top of the fact of the subject matter, I think makes it even a little bit trickier to stay on task in a way. It's a good reminder of, we sort of joke right before the show starts. We're like, I'm doing this show for you, for Kira, for the stage manager, for the crew, the staff, just to center ourselves. And okay, if they don't laugh, it doesn't mean they're not getting anything out of it. They might be cringing, which is not a bad thing. We can't necessarily tell, but so there's always that element with a comedy, but with this especially, I've found it's I guess more acute because of the satirical element of it too. And though I have to say it's been satisfying, it hasn't happened necessarily every time, but there are certain lines that my character Jackson has that are just, they are cringeworthy. And sometimes I get a really good, I'll hear an audible, oh, like it's just pure disapproval in the moment. And it's that's satisfying. It's like, okay, so this is fun. They're getting the satire, they're getting, so there's always the reading of the audience, which can be difficult. But in terms of personal satisfaction, I can say that it's been a very challenging project because of the reasons I'm saying, but at the same time satisfying because at the end it's like, oh, okay, well, we did this, they laughed, they didn't laugh, but we as a core group of 4 people, because we're kind of, once we're going, we're just going, and we get to the end and it's like we did the thing, we did the thing, and it's satisfying in that way. It's really satisfying to work with everybody. So that's a kind of a broad answer, but yeah.
I think, I like to fancy that, we're both experienced enough and have done comedy enough that I think we're pretty good at comic timing. But with this piece, because there's this added element of, if they're not laughing, it might not just be because they don't think it's funny. It might be because they're offended. And so there's this kind of riding the laughter and being prepared to hold for laughs, but also being simultaneously prepared to keep driving it if they don't laugh, has been a much, much trickier line to walk with this piece. And because there's a lot of information packed into it, there's also that thing of like, sometimes if they're not laughing, it's actually because they're afraid of missing something, right? And so you have to walk that line of like, do we need to slow it down just a smidge so that they have enough time to register what's just been said and then laugh? But the flip side of that is if you hold and that's not what's going on, then you've just got egg on your face. So it's like, it's been a really, really fascinating challenge. But also really cool because of that, because it's like, here we are, we're 3 weeks in and I feel like I'm still just like, what is this nut? There have been performances when I'm like, okay, got it. I've nailed it. I figured it out. All right, it's great. And then the next show, it's like, oh, no. You haven't figured it out. So that's cool. It keeps you on your toes. And it also really connects you to your fellow, as Neil said, as your fellow performers. Because really, when push comes to shove, we just have to connect with each other and make sure that we're present with each other and listening to each other and actually playing off of each other, really. Because at the end of the day, that's really all we've got, right? Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So why should, as we're moving into now our last sort of week and a half of the run, why should folks come see it if they haven't already?
Oh, lots of reasons. First of all, it is funny. It really is funny. And if you like to laugh, there's so many opportunities. Every page has multiple jokes. We play the characters. We're the butt of the jokes sometimes, or theater is the butt of the joke. There's so many opportunities just to laugh. There's also just goofy stuff that goes on. But the thing that I like to that I go back to is that I got this from an interview from the playwright Larissa FastHorse. She says, well, you know, it's proven medically that laughing is good for you and it extends your life. You live longer if you laugh. So her point was, so not only am I extending your life for you, I'm giving you something to think about while you're alive longer. That's my version of her quote. But I love that because it does give you lots to think about. You know, the history of Thanksgiving and how this became a holiday and how and the actual history of it. I mean, I could say that as a kid growing up, I was taught the myth that these characters are actually trying to break down and, you know, and reframe. That's the myth that I was taught in school. Everyone was friendly, everything went well. That's not how things went down. That's actually never how things have gone down, you know, between humans, between invaders, between all these different things. So there's a lot of that in there. It makes you think, it reframes it. But at the same time, I think it makes you laugh enough that you can sort of go, okay, horrible things happened. We can laugh at ourselves about how we're dealing with it, but now how do we deal with it moving forward? What do we talk about? What do we acknowledge, which in my opinion should be everything. We should acknowledge the actual history of things. And then we need to do that and then start moving forward in a new direction. But until we do that, we can't. So it addresses all of that stuff in a very, very smart way. One of the and I'll let you talk in just a second. I don't mean to dominate this whole thing. One of the characters, Caden, played by Tori Hansen, he has all of this history that he's researched and brought into the creation of this play that these characters are trying to create. And that history is actual history. And so there's all of these injections of facts and events and different points of view, and it's great. And meanwhile, you have, you know, trying to form all of that into a play for children. It's a play for elementary school grades that these characters are trying to create. So how do you fit all that in? I mean, that's funny. Just if you like take a second and take a breath, how would you even start to do that? And yet that's what this play is largely about. So to me, that's very funny all on its own. And then all of the stuff that, you know, the competitiveness between the characters about who gets the biggest part. And there's all these little flavors of things that are amusing and just kind of forehead smacking, like, wow, these people. But they're not bad people either. So all of those things, I mean, I think that's just like a shotgun blast of reasons for what you could get out of the play. And there's just goofy stuff. And some of it's offensive, but it's also funny. And I go back to the first thing I said, it's good to laugh. It's just good for you to laugh. So even if it's offensive, you go, okay, yeah. And last thing, we had an audience member last night. We had a talk back last night. He said something like, you know, I don't identify wholly with any one of these characters that were up on stage, but there were moments where each of them said something, and he said, I thought, oh, I've said something like that, or that's me in that moment. And it kind of freed him up. He's like, oh, okay, so I don't identify with these people, but I identify with some of what they're doing. And then I was able to laugh about it and sort of just go, okay, so I'm not, maybe I'm not perfect. No, who is perfect? You know, all of that stuff is in this play, which is a lot to pack in, and you have to come see it to understand what I'm talking about. That's my 2 cents. Cassie, over to you.
I don't have a lot to add, except just actually coming to live theater. I feel like, I mean, independent of this play specifically, but just like we haven't been able to gather in groups, and there is nothing that replaces what it is to experience live performance as a sharing with other audience members. And that is particularly true with comedies. I mean, I think laughing with other people is such an incredible healing force, and also just reminds us of our humanity, right? Like that's key. And I think the big thing about this play for Larissa FastHorse also is just like, look, we're all in this together. We need to be able to fall on our faces together. We need to be able to make mistakes, and we need to be able to laugh about it. And that's how we do move forward. That is how we improve things. That's how we become better as humans. Yep. Being better as humans means actually being with each other. It's not over a screen. It's not and so the awkwardness that you might feel in the audience watching this show and the laughter, those are both things that like remind us like we need to connect with each other as human beings. And so that's important to this play, but it's also important just in the broader scheme of like why live performance is so important and is still so valuable.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple people, I think, that have commented in talkbacks, people who did see the virtual production of this last spring and who then now have come to see it live. And they have said like they get a lot. There's just a lot you get out of it seeing it live that is just not possible, virtually. So,
and referencing that virtual production, one of the reasons we decided to bring the show back into the season was very much about that shared collective experience you're talking about. The ability to just share those laughs with everyone else in the space is really important. And the phenomenon we're finding is people are leaving the theater. People are staying in the seats a long time after curtain call just to laugh. And then they're walking out of the theater still laughing. And as they're sort of moving through the lobby, the laughter is turning from like, oh, yeah, but actually, moving into that thoughtful space, which is really a cool thing.
Yeah.
Also, you should come see the show because, you get to see this beard in action. And there's nothing like live beard acting.
Live beards.
Yeah. Well, and, but live theater, it's different every time slightly. So you never know quite what you're going to see. And there are moments in this play where we have constructed them as a cast and director and everybody. There are some sequences in this play that are quite literally different every night because nobody really knows what's going to happen. And it was so,
And we're not going to tell you what they are. You have to come see it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
Cassandra Bissell, Neil Brookshire playing Logan and Jackson, respectively, in Milwaukee Chamber Theater's production of Larissa FastHorse's The Thanksgiving Play, which runs through December 19th. Tickets still available. Come on down and check it out. You're gonna laugh. Like, as a producer, I always get a little uncomfortable with that whole like, oh, it's funny, we promise you. But like, it's funny and you're gonna laugh. So if you're looking for some laughter coming up here in your holiday season, you will find it in the theater for this play. We promise you. And if you feel that promise has been broken, get in touch with me and we'll figure it out. But seriously, it's super funny and you should really, really check it out. So join us in the theater. We require proof of vaccination or a recent COVID test, and everybody has to wear a mask the whole time because our actor friends can't, and we need to keep them safe so that we can keep doing live theater in this pandemic. So until we have better measures in place, those are the ones we're using. But it is even all that notwithstanding, it's a really, really good time in the space. So come see Neil, come see Cassie, come see Tori Hansen, come see Hannah Shea. It's good ridiculousness that will give you also some good things to think over.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, friends. Have a good day. And thank you all for joining us. Take care.
You too. Bye.